Pivot, get back. We'll explain coming up in a live report.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for this Week 2 edition of the Woodland Hills Football Network pregame show. I'm Adam Gusky, and this week the Wolverines take on the McKeesport Tigers in a non-conference matchup. We're going to sit down with Woodland Hills head coach George Novak to talk about last week's loss at Upper St. Clair. We'll also preview this game against the McKeesport Tigers, and we'll also let you know where you can tune into this week's game, including a special national webcast. All of that on the pregame show right here on the Woodland Hills Football Network. Thanks again for joining us for this Week 2 edition of the Woodland Hills Football Network pregame show. We're now sitting down with Woodland Hills head coach George Novak. And Coach Novak, before we talk about this week's game against McKeesport, let's take a look back to last week's game against Upper St. Clair. Obviously, you liked the way the game started, but once the second half hit, Upper St. Clair took control.
Yeah, looking back at that game, Adam, you know, both teams had a lot of young guys playing. We had 2 freshmen and 3 sophomores starting, and we faced a lot of adversity. I was real proud of our guys because, you know, the first half we couldn't get anything going, and the defense played real stellar. Special teams were playing well, and, you know, the offense came up with a couple big plays. Cody Mcclellan, a quarterback, had a great day that first half. He had 2 touchdown passes, which gave us 12 points. We had a 12-0 lead, which was a big plus for us. Had some momentum. We felt pretty good going into the half with the young guys in there. And second half came out, they made a few adjustments, we made a few adjustments, and you know, they were able to drive on us and score. Even in the third quarter, we had a drive going till we had an offsides penalty, kind of stopped our drive, and that was kind of the turning point of the game because they were able to come back, and then we had a defensive offsides penalty, and those are the types of things that happen early in the year when you have a young team. And you know, the third or the fourth quarter, I'd rather forget about, but we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes. They made a few mistakes also, but we learned a lot from the mistakes. And that's why you play, you know, early season games. And we always like to play the best team we can get in that first game because that way you know what the mistakes are and what you got to work on, what players can play at that level. So, you know, we were pleased with seeing that. We were pleased the kids played hard even to the end. And, you know, we lost to a good Upper St. Clair team that was in the WPL finals last year. So, you know, we got to continue to focus on what we can do to improve both offensively and defensively on special teams.
Coach, you touched on Cody Mcclellan. He had a very good game, especially in the first half with those big plays. He was also able to get some rhythmic passing going in the fourth quarter. We saw glimpses of his ability through his first 2 seasons, but as a starter, he really seemed to settle in quickly.
You know, Cody, this is his 3rd year in football. Actually, he was a baseball player his whole life. We talked him into coming out in 10th grade, so this is his 3rd year of high school football. Last year he came in and did a good job. He had to start 1 game up at Altoona, had a great showing, and as a backup to Pat Menifee last year did a nice job. Worked hard in the off season, came back strong, had a great summer at the passing camps at Michigan State and down at Pitt, and had a real good relationship with our receivers as far as timing. You know, he did better than I expected for an opener, especially against Upper St. Clair. He had 2 touchdown passes, one to Trayvon Mathis and then another one to Tom Green. They were both great passes, and he hit Chris David on an almost touchdown pass. And you know, he just had some nice timing routes, threw the ball very well, and he was under pressure. I think he handled the pressure and everything else very well. So, real proud of Cody, and you know, he's going to be more and more a part of our offense.
On the defensive side of the football, Alex Beasley really showed that he can be a defensive leader, taking the place of Mike Caprera. He really settled in nicely. Clearly, he's a third-year starter, and that experience has helped him being the leader of the defense.
I think Alex is definitely one of the leaders on the football team. He's a captain, 3-year starter. He made some big hits in the game, especially in the first half. He was our defensive leader. Along with him, number 53, Juwan Turner, he made some great plays for us the first half. And both of those guys have to go both ways. So even Alex in the second half was able to run the football, and he had some punishing runs there in the second half. So Alex and Juwan are our two captains, and they were the captains for the first game, and couldn't ask more from them as far as leadership and their effort on the field.
Coach, the heat was a factor on Friday night, and it's been a little bit warmer this week. Do you think that this warmth this week helps prepare for the game against McKeesport, because it wasn't real hot during camp? So you went into that game not very deep, very young, and you didn't have the experience in the heat. So I'm sure the heat this week leading up to the McKeesport game is going to help.
Well, weather's always one of the determining factors in the game. Whether it's hot, raining, cold, snow, whatever type of weather you have, it always has an effect on the game, especially in northern part of the country, in Pennsylvania. It was extremely humid. It's humid for both teams. We had a lot of guys playing both ways and on special teams, and we had a lot of cramps. We always get first games. I think all the teams had cramps, but we had extremely lot of cramps to guys that were going both ways, and that means we had to put substitutes in at multiple positions on offense, defense, and special teams, and that's always tough when you got more than first and second team. When you start going to your third team, it gets a little bit difficult. But our kids adjusted to it, and Coach D'Amico, and we preach to the kids about hydrating themselves all week, not just before the game. Just drink a lot of fluids all week so they keep hydrated so their bodies don't cramp. We did a lot of exercises and stretching this week also to try to alleviate that problem.
Coach, you take on the McKeesport Tigers this week, your first non-conference game of the season. A little strange not to start off the season with the non-conference, but this will be a nice tune-up as you head into the Southeast Conference play in earnest as the season progresses, I'm sure.
McKeesport's one of our neighbors, one of our rivals. We play them in a lot of sports. A lot of the players know each other. Growing up playing midget football, playing basketball and other sports, baseball. So, there's that relationship. We know their coaches, they know ours. In fact, a couple of our ex-players are coaching, and one of our coaches played at McKeesport. So, it's a friendly rivalry amongst the coaches, amongst the players. And we have similar types of team. They're young, inexperienced, but they do have some great seniors, especially have 2 Division I kids. Hadari, the linebacker, outstanding athlete, Division I scholarship to West Virginia. Their quarterback, he has a Division I scholarship to Akron already. He's 6'5". He's one of the leading passers in the WPL last year. And, they're a tough football team. They had a tough loss also in their first game. They had a lot of turnovers, but we're similar in size, similar in speed, so I expect it to be a good football game.
Of course, this game is a rivalry, and it's also part of the Great American Rivalry Series, so this game is going to have a national webcast to go along with some regional programming as well as our broadcast on the Woodland Hills Football Network. So this game has a lot of exposure. 2 young teams facing a lot of pressure with that national kind of exposure. How do you overcome that?
Well, Adam, you know how we are. You played here. We prepare every game like it's a WPL championship game. We prepare hard. Coaches work hard. We put the game plan together. We work hard. We put enough pressure on the kids at practice to prepare them for that. But in the back of their minds, I'm sure that affects them, having Comcast here and Great American Rivals and your program and making it the game of the week and everything. It'll be exciting, and I'm sure it'll be a nice crowd, and we'll have an exciting game.
Well, Coach, we always talk about some Woodland Hills alumni, and since the NFL hasn't started just yet, let's talk a little bit about some of the guys in college football. Lafayette Pitts got the start at cornerback for the University of Pittsburgh, had 2 pass breakups. Quentin Jefferson saw time for the University of Maryland and had a tackle for a loss for the Terps in their victory. So it's good to see some of your players succeeding at the college level, just like it's always been.
Adam, I'm real proud of all our guys that go to college and play no matter what level, but, they're playing at the highest level in Division I football. They're doing a great job, and I think KK Mosley Smith started also for Pitt, and I'm sure he did a good job too. This week we have the Cincinnati Pitt game tomorrow night, and you know, that's going to be an exciting game with Lafayette on one side and Shaquem Alonso on the other side. So they might have to watch, or Lafayette might have to watch him a little bit during the game. So that'll be exciting.
I really look forward to watching that matchup as well between the Panthers and the Bearcats, especially with Shaquem on the one side and Lafayette on the other. Coach, thanks a lot for your time. Good luck this week against the Tigers, and we'll talk to you again next week for the Week 3 edition of the Woodland Hills Football Network pregame show. We'll be right back with more of this Week 2 edition after this quick break.
Good break. Let them know you came to play. Don't get too excited now. We're a long time for game plan. Get loosened up. Get used to the turf. 1-3. 1-2-3. Wolverines!
Bow, bow, bow.
Fall in line. Fall in line. Should be one line, guys. One line.
Again, we thank you for joining us for this Week 2 edition of the Woodland Hills Football Network pregame show. Don't forget you can tune into this week's game live on the radio on AM 1550 WLFP, on the web at woodlandhillsfootballnetwork.com, thanks to msasports.net. We'll also have live television coverage on Monroeville Comcast Cable Channels 4 and 13, Penn Hills Comcast Cable Channel 98, and we'll also have live cable radio coverage on Verizon Fios Channel 37, and we'll also have a very special live webcast brought to you by Woodland Hills Television on ihigh.com. And don't forget, we always have our video replays on all of our television affiliates. For everybody at Woodland Hills Television, I'm Adam Gusky.